Sarah is smiling as she drives her new car off the lot. She did everything right. She researched the model, she negotiated the price, she ran the numbers. She thinks she knows exactly what it costs, $735 a month. 5 years later, she earns more than ever. Yet somehow, her savings account looks almost exactly the same. The payment didn't change. Her salary went up. She's not buying more things than she used to. But something is draining her, quietly, every single month. The answer isn't the payment. Buying isn't what makes people poor. Keeping things is. The most expensive things you'll ever own aren't the things you bought. They're the things you kept. And the gap between what she thinks she's paying and what she's actually paying, that gap is the financial story of the American middle class. Here's what nobody told Sarah before she signed. Her car payment is $735 a month. That part is accurate. But the car doesn't cost $735 a month to own. It costs $965. The difference, that extra $230, arrives in pieces. A car insurance renewal, a tire, an oil change, a registration fee. Each one feels like a separate event. Each one gets absorbed as just life, just the cost of things. But add them up, and she's spending $11,577 a year on a car she thinks costs $8,820. She's never seen those two numbers side by side. Most people haven't. The biggest piece of that gap is one that never shows up as a bill at all. Sarah's car is worth less today than it was yesterday, and less tomorrow than it is today. The average new vehicle loses roughly $4,300 in value every year, not from accidents, not from misuse, just from existing. On a $38,000 car, the first year alone can erase $6,000 to $7,600 in value. Gone. Not spent on anything, not enjoyed, just evaporated. She paid for it. It just didn't feel like a payment. By year 5, that $38,000 car is worth somewhere between $16,000 and $20,000. More money lost to depreciation than paid in gas, insurance, and maintenance combined. The payment buys it. The ownership keeps billing you. Cars aren't the problem. They're simply the easiest place to notice a rule that follows almost everything you own. If this only happened with cars, it wouldn't matter very much. But the same psychology follows us into almost everything we own. Sarah bought a home. Her mortgage is $2,035 a month. She knows that number. She's comfortable with that number. What she didn't know, what 81% of homeowners say they didn't know, is that for many homeowners, the mortgage is only part of the real cost of owning the home. The other half arrives the same way the car costs did, separately, quietly, in different months from different vendors. Sarah opens her mailbox, property tax increase. 2 weeks later, insurance renewal. A month after that, the water heater. Every envelope asks for money. None of it feels connected to the decision she made years ago. None of it was unexpected. Not really. Property taxes have risen 27% over 5 years. Insurance premiums are up 24% since 2021 and still climbing. Routine maintenance runs over $8,000 a year on a typical home. She didn't notice her lifestyle changing. She noticed her savings disappearing. The costs were always coming. Sarah just wasn't planning for them. She signed up for $2,035 a month. She's living inside a cost that runs closer to $3,800. You don't pay once, you subscribe forever. Buying takes one day. Ownership bills you every month after that. Here's why this keeps happening to people who are otherwise careful with money. When Sarah bought her car, her brain did something completely normal. It compared the cost of buying to the benefit of having. She imagined the convenience, the freedom, the feeling of not waiting for a bus in January. She weighed all of that against the monthly payment. The keeping costs weren't part of that calculation because they hadn't happened yet. Your brain treats tomorrow's bills like tomorrow's problem until tomorrow arrives. And so Sarah said yes to the car, yes to the house, and then spent years absorbing the keeping costs one invoice after another, never totaling them, never connecting them back to the original decision. Every few months, another bill, another repair, another renewal. She never questioned the purchase. She questioned herself. She thought she lacked discipline. She thought she wasn't saving enough. She never realized she wasn't losing to spending. She was losing to ownership. Now run the decade math. Sarah never wrote a check for $115,770. She wrote hundreds of smaller ones: insurance, maintenance, registration, repairs, until one day, quietly, they became the same number. That's how expensive things hide, not inside one giant payment, inside hundreds of forgettable ones. 2 cars, which is the reality for most American households, and that number doubles. And the car isn't even the expensive part. Home hidden costs beyond the mortgage: 10 years, $214,000. Over the full 30-year life of a mortgage, the non-mortgage carrying costs rival the mortgage itself. These aren't purchases, these are subscriptions nobody knowingly signed up for. And the question almost nobody asks before they sign is the only one that actually matters. What does this cost to keep? The people who ask that question before they buy tend to look 10 years in like they made completely different choices. They didn't earn more, they didn't sacrifice more, they just calculated more. They might still buy the car, but they pick a model where year 1 depreciation is 10% instead of 20%. They might still buy the house, but they run the carrying cost number before they run the mortgage affordability number. Or sometimes they don't buy at all, not because they can't afford the price tag, but because the 10-year keep cost doesn't justify the 10-year use. That's a quiet calculation. It doesn't look like anything from the outside, but it compounds. 10 years later, Sarah didn't earn twice as much. She didn't get lucky. She didn't find a secret. She simply stopped buying things that kept charging her long after she'd bought them. And that one shift from thinking about price to thinking about keep cost is the difference between the financial position she's in now and the one she could have been in. The data was never hidden. AAA publishes the real cost of car ownership every year. Bankrate publishes the hidden costs of homeownership. Nobody disputes the math. It just never gets presented to you as one number in one place before you sign. The most expensive bill you'll ever pay is the one that never arrives. It just shows up as 100 smaller ones across 1,000 ordinary months on things you already own. Sarah thought she bought a car. What she really bought was 10 years of future bills. The day you buy something is the cheapest day you'll ever own it. The expensive part is everything that comes after. The question was never whether you could afford to buy it. The real question is whether you could afford to keep it, because the purchase ends. Ownership doesn't.